Right now I'm standing at the resting place, final resting place of the great Tang poet Bai Juyi. Bai Juyi was a later Tang poet. After the fall of the High Tang, the Anlushan Rebellion, and he is most famous for his poem called Changheng Ge, or Song of Everlasting Sorrow. The poem tells about the fall of the Tang through the relationship between the great Emperor Tang Xuanzong and his concubine Yang Guifei, or precious concubine Yang. This poem is very famous not just in China, but all throughout East Asia. And in fact, if you look around the temple, as we'll do in a moment, this shrine, I should say, this is a shrine to the poet. If you look around, you can see plaques and memorials left by people from all over East Asia, including Korea and Japan and Singapore. And if you look at the plaques themselves, you'll notice something particular, that the people who paid for the plaques to memorialize Bai Juyi are also all named Bai. So they all share the same family name, whether from Singapore or Korea. Now, I suppose that part of the reason is that Bai Juyi left a lot of descendants, so you can probably trace his descendants throughout East Asia. Or maybe it's just the case that people with the last surname Bai want to pay their respects to perhaps the greatest Bai of them all in the history of East Asia. So we're at the memorial to Bai Juyi. This is his final resting place, and it's located right outside of Luoyang, the modern city of Luoyang, which was, of course, the ancient capital, one of the ancient capitals until medieval times. And right across the river is the famous Longman Caves, which we just visited. And this little park and garden dedicated to the great poet Bai Juyi has a very Japanese feel to it. And you might be wondering why that is. Well, probably it's because, first of all, the Japanese have a great veneration for the poet Bai Juyi. In fact, his famous poem, The Song of Everlasting Sorrow, or Changheng Ge, was very popular in Japan during the Nara period, and especially the Heian period in Japanese history. And it was during the Heian period that the greatest novel in Japanese history was written, The Tale of Genji. And in fact, the Tale of Genji draws a lot of its inspiration from the story of Tang Xuanzong and Yang Guifei, the famous emperor, the Tang emperor, and his relationship with the fragrant concubine. So, since that time, the Japanese have had a great veneration for this poet. And probably another reason why there's such a Japanese flavor to this place is that the Japanese have a lot of money, and they're very interested in preserving traditional Chinese culture. So they come here and they donate a lot of money to preserving these ancient heritage sites. So you can see plaques like this one, which is Japanese Cultural Association that has donated funds to memorialize the great poet Bai Juyi.